Alice Coltrane Turiya Sangeetananda was an American jazz pianist, organist, harpist, singer, composer, and spiritual leader who influenced jazz music dramatically throughout her career. Born on August 27, 1937 in Detroit, Michigan to a musical family, Alice Lucille McLeod began studying organ and later piano at a young age, and later played organ for her church at 9 years old. Alice performed around Detroit before moving to Paris in the late 1950s to study classical music as well as jazz with Bud Powell. She returned to the U.S. by 1960, where she worked as the intermission pianist at the Blue Note and played gigs with tenor saxophonist Lucky Thompson. It was also in 1960 when she married jazz vocalist Kenny Poncho Hagood and had a daughter, Michelle. This marriage lasted only a year before Hagood took on a heavy heroin addiction, forcing Alice and Michelle to leave. After gigging in Detroit for 3 years, Alice met John Coltrane in 1963 at his set in New York at the Birdland Jazz Club. The two immediately fell in love and married in 1965. Alice and John Coltrane had 3 children together, as well as Michelle, whom John adopted. Alice Coltrane joined the John Coltrane Quintet from 1966 to 1967, when McCoy Tyner suddenly left the group to pursue other musical ventures. Alice recorded several albums during her time with John Coltrane, including Live at the Village Vanguard Again in 1966 and Cosmic Music in 1968. John Coltrane died of liver cancer in July 1967, 4 months after the birth of their son Oranjan. Alice felt the weight of the absence of her husband, but released her first solo album, A Monastic Trio, within a year of his death. In this album, Alice Coltrane demonstrates her skills as a multi-instrumentalist and composer who masterfully blends the improvisational styles and form of the American jazz tradition with unconventional Eastern-sounding textures from harp, voice, and percussion instruments. Pharoah Sanders makes an appearance on the album, starting a lasting partnership between the musicians. In 1969, Alice Coltrane released Huntington Ashram Monastery, an ethereal and floating album. This album would start a partnership between Coltrane and jazz bassist Ron Carter, who drives the music forward with powerful, repetitive bass lines. In 1970, Alice Coltrane released Patah the El Daoud in the basement of her home in New York with Pharoah Sanders and Joe Henderson on tenor sax and alto flute, Ron Carter on bass, and Ben Riley on drums. In 1970, Alice Coltrane became a follower of Indian guru Swami Satchidananda and began spiritual practice with him in India. In India, Alice had a deep religious experience and dedicated her life to God, changing her name to Turi Sangeetananda. Alice Coltrane Turiya Sangeetananda became a spiritual leader and founder of the Vedantic Center in 1975, and later established a spiritual community in the Santa Monica Mountains of Southern California. There she would orate discourses and play organ to lead the members in devotional song for Sunday services. After releasing a total of 13 full-length albums over her musical career and finding peace in her spirituality, Alice Coltrane died in 2007 at the age of 69. Patah the El Daoud is a deeply intimate and inventive album that does not hold back dissonance or chaos to please the general listener. The first word that I think of when I listen to this album is power. There is rhythmic power surging through the bass line of Patah the El Daoud, emotional power in the bluesy licks of Turiya and Ramakrishna, and spiritual power in the chaotic noise of Mantra. Although these elements pull me tightly into the music, I find myself losing interest during the long, cutting solos of Pharoah Sanders and Joe Henderson. Fortunately, I endured the more tiring parts of the album and uncovered the gold that lays past the discomfort. I find that the most satisfaction is found in listening to this album all the way through from start to finish, and unfortunately this is something that a new fan of Alice Coltrane's will not typically experience due to the long run times and heavily dissonant passages that bring the listener out of the flow state that each song initially instates. Although there are parts that are not easily endured, the satisfaction that comes with the return to the melody is unparalleled. In this way, listening to this album is a journey in itself, with the listener emerging as a different person at the end of it. This is a quality that I find in many great albums, and reminds me of why I love music. Patah de Aldude is worth listening to for its transformative power alone. Alice Coltrane puts her spiritual and emotional energy into the music that she plays, which feels authentic as a listener. With themes of spiritual creation, elevation, and discipline, this album transcends genre in favor of a collective reverence for music as a whole. Each song is strikingly unique, yet I feel as if I have known each song my whole life. Alice Coltrane is a master of spiritual music, and she shines brightest in Patah de Aldude. In terms of personal enjoyment, I rate this album a 4 out of 5.